Hey everyone, and welcome to LACUE Cares, our event for September. So in this webinar, we're going to look at project-based learning in the virtual environment and try to just go over a few concepts and thoughts and processes that might help you um, as you try to venture more into distance learning, virtual learning, hybrid with project-based learning. So let's go ahead and get started. And so what exactly is project-based learning? So basically in project-based learning, you're giving your students a driving question, and basically you're challenging them to really engage in that content and understand that content and really try to get to the point where they're interacting with it and not just sitting up there listening to someone talk about it. It usually starts with a driving question, and it usually is really problem based. The source here at the bottom will bring you back to more information in terms of if you would like to read more about project-based learning, because this is basically just a quick overview of project-based learning on this slide here. So let's look at what are some of the essential things that are involved with project-based learning. So basically, these are the kind of things, the concepts and thoughts that you need to think about as you're talking about planning. So what do you want your students to know? What is your driving question? So your driving question is going to be the thing that keeps you going and keeps your students going all the time. What are they trying to find out? What are they trying to understand? Student voice and choice is very important in project-based learning, because what that allows you to do is allows your children and your students to be very innovative. It allows them to choose what they want and how they might want to present it. And student voice, we all know, is very, very important. 21st century skills is also a great thing that is very much spotlighted in project-based learning. There is usually a technology component at some way, shape, or form. So inquiry and innovation, this is what I love the most about project-based learning, because what it actually does is it allows the students to interact with the content. So it's not just about rote memorization. It's not just about the same thing over and over again. It's about them trying to figure out the best way to present their problem. Feedback and revision. We know as teachers, feedback is great. Feedback is what helps our kids. And so that feedback and revision, as an old science teacher, I love the idea of revision, because that gives you that concept of the scientific method. So what's great about project-based learning is what their project looked like at the beginning might not be what it ends up looking like at the end. And then, of course, a publicly presented product. That's one thing I think we have to work with our students on more, is especially in this world that is so full of technology and social media and everything else, is the information, is the materials that we are presenting, that our students are presenting for this project, is it publicly consumable? Is it something that we're proud of? So these are really great points to think and keep in mind when we're talking about project-based learning. So one thing about project-based learning is you want to start with the end in mind. So I'm going to try to move this up so you can see the last stage. So in stage one, we're looking at desired results. Stage two, what is the acceptable evidence for your desired results? And then in stage three, you want to plan that learning based on what you came up with. So the idea is you are actually know what you want the kids to do, and you know what the end result is, and what you're doing through project-based learning is having them go through these the stages and going through all of this information. So first thing, planning, and planning more. That's a big thing about project-based learning. What do the students need to know? What do you want them to do? How do you want them to engage in their content? And I think that's one of the biggest thing, is the engagement in the content. That is what we all as teachers want our kids to do, because once they engage in that content, then it becomes part of them. It becomes part of their knowledge base. So planning is very, very important for that. So The other thing is all of this standard space. So in other words, are you actually just doing something for fun, or are you doing this based on your standards? So in a project-based learning, you can take a variety of standards, a bunch of different standards, and put them together into one project and have them demonstrate mastery of the content that way. And so that project that they're planning at the end and that project that they're choosing to do and using their student voice on are all items that allow you to show and allow the students to show the mastery of that standard. So what you really want to do is set the scene. I really love this little quote, and so that's why I'm just gonna read it to you. A good driving question captures the heart of the project in clear, compelling language, which gives students a sense of purpose and challenge. The question should be provocative, open-ended, complex, and linked to the core of what you want the students to learn. So notice this: provocative and open-ended. Why open-ended? Because everybody looks at things differently. Not only adults, but your students do as well. So if you have that open-ended question, they can then approach the content and then have to justify. That's the key word. They have to justify their content. They have to justify what they've done. So ways to designing, what you want to think about is how can you design a culminating activity? And you want to also empower your students. So these are some great things to think about. What kind of inquiry and curiosity are you going to be having the students do? What creative thinking? What forms of creativity? Again, voice and choice. Empathy is a big thing for project-based learning. And then a collaboration across grades. In our district, we have one school that's across the street, one middle school across the street from the elementary school, and they do collaborative projects across those ages, which is awesome because the little kids get to look up to the middle school kids. So think about that when you are actually working on your culminating activities and designing them. This is a great website to go to for additional resources for creating project-based learning, and especially in distance learning. So notice this is the John Spencer website, taking distance learning away from the screen. And then what it does is it really kind of goes over the whole concepts of what is really good for them to see. And also it notes, which I think is important even as a tech person, it notes the whole point of everything doesn't have to be technology. Because even if they're doing things online, that doesn't mean they have to just have everything done with technology. So I think this is a great little resource and a site for you to check out. So here are a couple of suggestions of ways to get started. These are sort of the old ways that we started doing some project-based learning: sketches, journals, Socratic seminars, those types of things. Here's some more modern things where we're bringing in 3D printers, blogs, podcasts. And then I love the mashups. Kids love mashups. Sketch videos, the ones where they draw itself as they go through. Video history projects. Blended divergent thinking challenges. And again, back to the John Spencer site has a whole lot more information there if you're interested in looking at that. So what are some tools that you can use for presenting? So all of these, you have access to this slide deck, and these are all going to be active. So some good presenting apps would be Bunchy, Google Slides. These check out Slides Mania, which this is a template from Slides Mania. They have that's where you can find the journals and those types of things that are already set up. Fantastic site for teachers. Here are a couple of video accesses for WeVideo, Screencastify, YouTube. Remember, in Screencastify, you can have backgrounds and green screen. You now can do that in Flipgrid, so really we could add Flipgrid to this as well. Flipgrid has a lot of options that are free. Screencastify has some free options, but not totally free. So you might want to check out Flipgrid. Slow motion animation. We love slow motion animation in our district because kids can really show a concept. Like one of my favorite ones is the kids took the volcano and created the volcano out of clay cotton balls, and then they would take a picture. Then they would move it and take a picture. And then you could see all the steps of the actual eruption of the volcano. So this is a really great way to have kids do a final project. Tools and websites. So Google Sites or Weebly, have them actually build a website about a topic. That's another great way for them to actually do some project-based learning and to show what they know and what they understand and work in groups. 3D printing, Tinkercad, you can't beat it. You can actually download some things to print that's already there, or you can have the kids build it. Even if you don't have a 3D printer, it's still good to print it. Have them build it in Tinkercad, and then you can save it and then eventually find a 3D printer to print. But Tinkercad is a really good one for really having the kids delve into prototyping and that type of thing. Tools for presenting. We love Bloxels in our district. EduCreation is also great. Book creators. Kids can create their own books. You can have a class book or different things like that. So I would check out all of these links at your time, when you have time, and find one thing that works for you and try it, and then get really good at that before you go on to something else and let your kids get good at it. Great for inventions would be like Little Bits, anything Makerspace. These are all coding, those types of things where the kids really have to have a deep thought, have to really interact with the materials and with the content. Here are some great tools for the web and for print design. I love Canva. I use this for all of our social media things that we create in our district, for our website. Google Drawings is also great because they can work collaboratively. So think about like pass the sketch. So like a sketch note where you start with one kid and they start and they share with another kid. So Google Drawings is great for that. Different maps. Have your kids go on journeys. Have them create journeys. Love Google Tool Builder. That's a great way to get them to hop all over the place. Follow the path of a character in a book, possibly, or create a Around the World in 80 Days project, or something like that. This is National Geographic Map Maker. Very interactive. Just started figuring that one out and looking at it. It looks really cool, so I would suggest you check that one out as well. Data analysis, always a good way. They can do surveys. They can collect the data, display the data. Google Forms is great for that because, it has a button that you can actually look at your results. Google Sheets if you want to get deeper into it. Canva is also a great one for like infographics where you can add in your data and that type of thing. So one thing to kind of keep in mind as you're picking those types of things, once you're planning, you want to make sure that you're scaffolding up your information. So your students need to be able to do that subject. They need to look at the results. They need to understand, but they need to know that they have to scaffold it up. So for example, you're not going to start, this is a math example, but you're not going to start multiplying 2-digit numbers without actually going over multiplication facts and having them learn those types of things. So you need to think about how can you scaffold up the information that you're presenting to your students. So here's some tools for research. Wakelet is fantastic. Again, I send you to our earlier LACUE Cares event where Amanda Jones and Heather White from Livingston did a great session on Wakelet. This is a great way for kids to actually collect and present things. Also, you can do a little bit better like researching with something like Kittle. Hyperdocs are great because you can direct them on Hyperdocs. I have another session in this LACUE Care event on jazzing up kind of like with virtual field trips, and I do discuss Hyperdocs, and there's a template connected on that one. Some tools for your research experience. These science journals that can be downloaded on Chromebooks are fantastic. Your Google Expeditions, can't beat them. And then, of course, Google Meets. You can actually bring in an author or bring in someone into your discussion with your project, with your students, someone that's an expert in what they're actually researching. And it is amazing how many people give their time. You just sort of can go out into and throw that out there on Google, some of our Google like groups that will help you find someone that will talk to your students. Some professionals. Oops, sorry, that's the Science Journal download. These are some more ideas for guided learning. Wiser Me lets you actually be more interactive, like say with a worksheet. Edpuzzle is great because it lets you take a video, stop the video, ask a multiple choice question. So as you're scaffolding up that information that you're teaching the students about for the project, Edpuzzle could be a really great tool for that. Tools for sharing, can't beat these two. Two of my favorites, Flipgrid and Padlet, fantastic. Flipgrid also now has like pen pals, video pals, that you can work on maybe projects across the country, across the world with students of the same age or different age, something to look at. Padlet is also a great collaboration tool so that you can share ideas, brainstorm, that type of thing. So one thing to think about with project-based learning is your assessment. So what will your assessment look like? What is the models? What are you going to measure? And you're going to use a lot of rubrics in project-based learning. But you also want to make sure that rubric is created before the students actually start working, because you don't want them in midstream to not understand exactly what you're asking for. So assessment is very important to understand assessment pieces. So here are a few resources for you for assessment. So here's Quick Rubric, For All Rubrics, Theme Spark. These are all great ways to check out rubrics. Here's some for formative assessment. Mentimeter, I love Mentimeter. Seesaw's great. Plickers, Flipgrid could still be used for them to be able to tell you what they understand and what they know. Tools for constructed response. Classroom is a great one. Google Classroom. I have OnCourse on here. This is our SIS system, but inside of OnCourse allows our teachers to do classroom and do assessments that also have a constructed response piece. Summative assessment, the same thing. You can collect your data, have your students take maybe a exit ticket each day as they're working on their project. OnCourse for us in West Baton Rouge allows that as well. So these are just some quick tips and quick ideas about project-based learning. All of these links are active in the document that's also connected with this video. I'm Tammy Seneca in West Baton Rouge Parish. I guess I should have told you that at the beginning. Please don't, even if you're not from West Baton Rouge, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. We have several project-based learning activities that are linked on our West Baton Rouge website that you are more than welcome to use. I'll link that to this video and to this slide deck. So thank you for joining us for LACUE Cares. Stay strong. We're going to get through this together, and happy teaching.